there, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome and thanks for joining me. In today's video, we are going to talk about the blues chords. What are the blues guitar chords? Okay, now, there's a lot of chords out there. You know, you can buy books with like 3,762 different chords that you can play. There's a lot. I don't recommend that. Those chord books have a tendency to give you all of the things that are theoretically possible, but not really the things that sound good. So we're going to break it down a little bit more useful than that. Okay. Now, in general, chords, I group them by what I call family. Okay, and so that's the chord quality. When we talk about a chord, there's always two pieces of information. For example, if I have a G7 chord, that gives me two pieces of information. One is that the root note is a G, okay, and the second is that it is a seventh chord. We're going to talk about what that is here in just a minute, but that's the family that it goes in, as opposed to, let's say I have an A minor ninth chord, okay? Well, that tells me that A is the root note, so that's where I'm starting from. Minor ninth is the chord quality, and that's going to put it in the minor family. Okay, and again, I'm going to break this all down, make it a little bit more friendly for you. And it would be really hard to put like every single blues chord that you're ever going to use in one video. So I'm going to go a little bit quickly and just kind of give you a general overview of this. But I just want to make sure that you're not digging through chord books trying to play chords that are going to put your hands in really bizarre, odd positions. That's just not reasonable. Okay. So for blues, we tend to base everything around the seventh family, the dominant seventh chord family. So if you have something with major in the name and a chord that like G, where it doesn't say what quality is, it's major. Okay, so major chords or a sixth chord like a G6, those go in the major family. They have a root, they have a third, they have a fifth. For those of you that are theoretically inclined, they have a major seventh if it gets that far. So G major 7, G major 9, G major 11, G major 13, okay? Those are not the chords that we tend to use, pretty much ever, okay? You can learn them, they're great chords for a lot of things, just not so much for blues. There is the minor family, which is basically anything with minor in the name, okay? You can probably put that together. A minor 7, A minor 9, A minor 11, A minor 13, A minor add 6, it doesn't matter. If it's got a root, a flatted third, and a fifth, and a flatted seventh, that makes it a minor chord. It's in that minor family. Blues tends to be based around the dominant seventh family, which is basically a major chord at the bottom. It's got a root, third, and fifth. It has a flatted seventh on it. So something like G major 7, this is probably one of the things that I have to explain and kind of people don't understand, is like G major 7, or this, has a very different sound from this, which is G dominant 7 or G7. That sounds very different than that. Okay, and they're two different chord families. Okay, so let's start with an E7. We'll start with some open chords, right? Open, second fret, open, first fret, open, open. That's an easy way to play an A7. It's not the only way, but it's a common, easy way. A7, open A, I don't hit the low E string. Open A, second fret, open G, second fret, open E. That's a common way to play A7. Again, it's not the only way, but it's a common way. D7, open D, which is the fourth string, second fret, first fret, second fret. You can kind of see which fingers I'm using. It's not critical. Like on the A7 is a perfect example. I use my second and third. You could use your first and second. You could use your third and fourth. It just depends kind of on what you're doing. Right? So I don't like to get too big on exactly which fingers you use. That's kind of up to you. Now, C7, I'm going to say this is an open position chord because it does have an open high E. 3rd fret on the 5th string, 2nd fret on the 4th string. My pinky is playing that 3rd fret on the 3rd string, 1st fret on the 2nd string, and the open top string. Now, I say that I'm going to call it an open position, but there are times when I just don't hit that high open string and I do actually move this. We're going to talk about movable chord shapes here in a second, but sometimes, like if I take a C7 and move it up a half step, it's a C sharp 7. Now it's a D7. Now it's a D sharp 7. Now it's an E7 or E flat. It just, depends on how you want to name it off. Okay, there's also a B7. Is another good shape. The open positions tend to work really well, like if you're playing acoustic guitar. Admittedly, I don't use them as much on my electric. But I got the B, which is at the 2nd fret on the 5th string, no 6th string, 1st fret on the 4th string, 2nd fret on the 3rd string, open 2nd string, 2nd fret on the top string. So E7, A7, D7, B7, C7. You could do a G7, which is my 3rd finger on the low G, 3rd fret of the 6th string. I've got my B there at the 2nd fret of the 5th string, open 4th, open 3rd, open 2nd, 1st fret on the 1st string. It's a little bit of a stretch. It's not the easiest chord to make. And those are probably the most common open position chords. Now I mentioned with the C7 chord that I actually move that shape. Okay, those are open shapes, meaning they have an open string. There are also what I like to call closed shapes. Okay, and closed typically means we're going to have to bar something. So this gets into bar chords. The reason we call them bar chords doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they're movable, and it has everything to do with the fact that they actually have a bar in them. For example, a G7, I'm barring across all 6 strings at the 3rd fret with my 1st finger. And I'm not going to take a lot of time to discuss how to play a bar chord and get the notes to come out. That's kind of, I have other videos on that. But it's a little bit of a trick, especially on this one, because I've got 3rd fret on the bottom string, 5th fret, 3rd fret, which means my bar again, 4th fret, 3rd fret, 3rd fret. So 3rd, 5th, 3rd, 4th, 3rd, 3rd. So to play all of those notes and get those to come out is a bit of a challenge. But once you can do it, it's movable. So here it's a G7, here it's an A7, here it's a B7, here it's a C7, here it's a D7. It's kind of hard to play these chords way up here though. So that's why we might also do them down here. So here's a C7 with the root on the 5th string, that's a C. C, and then G, so C is at the 3rd fret of the 5th string. That's the 5th fret of the 4th string. 3rd fret with the bar of the 3rd string. 5th fret of the 2nd string with my pinky, 3rd fret of the 1st string. That's another really good 7th chord shape. And again, I can move it around. So it's C7, it's D7, it's E7. Okay, now, as I mentioned, 7th chords are a family. And so a lot of times, there are other kinds of chords we can use, things like 9th chords or 11th chords or 13th chords. And obviously there's a lot of possibilities, but for example, this is a D9 and a C9. A 9th chord is great, particularly when you have that root on the 5th string. It's a pretty comfortable chord to play. And again, I have other videos that get into the technical details of how to play this, but it's a great chord. 3rd fret, my 1st finger handles that 2nd fret on the 4th string, and then I take my 3rd finger and bend it back across the 3rd fret on those top 3 strings. And it's a great chord. There are things like a 13 chord, an A13, So I'm playing the A at the 5th fret of the 6th string. I'm not playing the 5th string. I'm getting the 5th fret on the 4th string, 6th fret on the 3rd string, and 7th fret on the 2nd string, and I get nothing out of the top string. So that's another really cool chord that you can kind of throw in. And then there's things like the Hendrix chord, the E7 sharp 9. Basically any chord that says 7, and then it says like sharp 5 or flat 5 or sharp 9 or flat 5, those are all what we call altered chords. They're altered in some way. The 9th is sharped. That's called an alteration. Okay, so this is really not that complicated. But something like an E7 sharp 9, commonly called the Hendrix chord, 7th fret there with my middle finger, that's the E. 6th fret, 7th fret, 8th fret. I can move that anywhere. Now the altered chords, those are kind of an acquired taste for a lot of people. The 7 sharp 9, I think for most of us is the easiest to accept because it's the Hendrix chord. We hear it in Purple Haze. We hear it in actually a lot of things. Stevie Ray Vaughan used it. You know, there's definitely instances where we have heard a 7 sharp 9 chord and we'll take that. If I'm playing over just kind of a blues jam and I go to the 4 chord and I decide to throw down a 7 sharp 9 chord, is it going to sound good? Probably not. Okay, so it's one of those chords you want to use very sparingly. All right, now, like I said, those 7th chords, that's probably going to handle, 85, 90% of everything you're ever going to need. But sometimes we have a minor blues, okay? So for the minor blues, we need minor chords, okay? Minor chords, of course, we have, like E minor, A minor, D minor, simple open minor chords that you probably already know. But we also have something like a bar chord minor, right? Or minor 7th. So, here A minor, I have the A at the 5th fret of the 6th string. My 3rd and 4th fingers are handling the 7th fret, and then I'm barring the 5th fret on the top 3 strings. To make it a little more difficult, but kind of cool, lift up your pinky, and now you have an A minor 7th, because you're getting that 5th fret on those top 4 strings. If it's really, really hard to play it there, you can play it up here. So here's a D, 5th fret on the 5th string, and I have my basic minor chord, which shares a shape with the major chord root on the 6th string. So I have 5, 7, 7, 6, 5. So the only thing I'm barring right there is that top string. That's probably the easiest bar chord to learn. And then I can again lift up the pinky and turn it into a minor 7th. So now I have 5, 7, 5, 6, 5. And truth be told, that's pretty much it. I don't use a whole lot of other chords. Like I said, it's so rare that a major style chord will come up. Occasionally, when I'm playing The Thrill Is Gone as the flat 6, I will use a major 7th chord. Not always, not everybody. Some people do it with a dominant flavor chord, but some people do it with a major 7 chord. You can do that. The easiest way is just like this is G major 7, and it's 5th fret on the 4th string. 4 hits 5, 4, 3, 2. They just go in order. That's probably the easiest way to do it. If you do it up here, it's 10, 9, 7, 7. And you could add that 7 on the top if you want, but you don't have to. That's probably, as far as blues goes, major 7, man, that's not even going to happen very often. Again, sometimes, like for example, when I play The Thrill Is Gone, which has what's called a flat 6 turnaround, I'll do that major 7th. I think it's a nice sound. Not everybody does it. A lot of people play it with a dominant, like a regular old 9th chord, and then use the 7 sharp 9. All great options. Okay, so that's pretty much it. To be perfectly honest, that's, again, probably 95% of all the chords I ever use in a night. I mean, those are the bread and butter. You know, having bazillions of chords, that's a new word I made up, bazillions. Having bazillions of chords at your disposal really doesn't help you any, okay? It's the bread and butter chords are good shapes. They're going to fit with the band. You don't want to get too carried away. Okay, so hope you enjoyed the video. I do have a little course, by the way, called Essential Blues Chords. You can go to essentialblueschords.com if you want to check that out. I'll try and leave a link near this video, where I do go through all of these different chord shapes and a few more that I do tend to use, and have them with, you know, here's how to practice them and put them together and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more to it. But this should give you a really good overview of the chords and how they work. And there you go. If you dig the video, you got guitar playing friends, I hope you'll share it with them. As always, I'm Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.